Sawyers use springboards to stand on while felling large trees. An accomplished sawyer could use the spring in the board to impart that energy to the axe swing or the crosscut saw pull. It is still possible to find old cedar stumps that show the hole where the springboard was inserted. Hello again, everyone. This is Guy Hemlin with Trailkeepers of Oregon. I'm a crew leader with TKO, and this is the fourth of a series of training videos covering basic or introductory crosscut Sawyer information. It is important to mention, however, that this material does not substitute nor qualify for an official Forest Service sanctioned Sawyer training course. In Part 3, What is a Saw Team?, we discussed that a saw team is impacted and defined by static factors, environmental factors, dynamic factors, and importantly, the human factors. All of these factors contribute to the OLEC process. In this module, we're going to talk about the OLEC methodology to plan the project, engage in problem solving, and make a collaborative decision to achieve the objective. But first, let's talk a bit about the concept of, as a saw team, of being situationally aware of your immediate logout environment. This is getting the big picture of a job site before actually starting the OLEC process. When the saw team first comes upon a trail log, stop. Look up, look around, look down. Ask the question, how did this log get here? Was it windfall, a diseased tree, or a recent fire causing root burnout? Look for other trees. What are the other hazards that are lurking? Hazard trees are everywhere. Widowmakers are not uncommon. Sawyers need to be constantly reviewing their surrounding environment and looking for potential hazards. The hazards will make themselves known based on the static and dynamic factors previously discussed. Saw crews must be properly equipped with the appropriate PPE. A good hard hat, eye protection, and cut-resistant boots are of primary importance. Each saw team must have an appropriately sized first aid kit. This is a minimal list of the saw tools that should be part of every saw team. Most dedicated logout teams carry two saws, a crosscut sized for the largest logs, and generally a smaller katana boy, lightweight saw for the release cuts or for use in cutting smaller logs. Most team members will bring some pruning and brushing equipment. At least one 3-pound axe per saw team is required to drive wedges or for removing limbs. Each TKO saw team should carry communication radios for intra-team or emergency communication, especially in the event of a medical emergency. Saw teams are expected to repair and restore any trail damage due to the log fall or removal of the log. This may require additional trail tools. The trail party crew lead and the saw team leader must have a plan for protecting the saw team, trail visitors, or other saw teams working nearby, especially if another team is below a working team. These considerations must be factored into the situational awareness analysis. We introduced the OLEC concept in an earlier module. Let's now describe the OLEC process in detail as part of the Sawyer's operational safety plan. As you remember, OLEC is the acronym for Objective, Hazards, Liens and Binds, Escape Routes, and defining the tentative cut plan. I say tentative cut plan because you should continually reassess your plan as the dynamic nature of the cut proceeds. It's not unusual to underestimate the energy in a log bind. The wise Sawyer or crew will say, "Wait, this cut is changing from what we thought would happen. Let's reassess." Objective setting can be a difficult process depending upon the complexity of the job site situation. There can be an overall objective, such as clear the logs from the trail, but each log will have its own objective. The process can start with a series of cascading objectives, such as clear the brush and limbs first. This objective is then run through the OLEC process. Once complete, then the next objective could be remove this log from the trail, and the OLEC process is run through to completion again. So what is described is an iterative process as the SAW team works through the OLEC methodology. It is important to also determine where the cut piece will go, the sequence of limb removal in the work area, and where brush and limbs will be disposed well off trail. As stated earlier, each job site has many potential hazards and obstacles. Some hazards are seasonal, like bees or poison oak. Dogs with visitor traffic can present special challenges. The cut piece may impact a dead tree, causing that tree to fall. Is there potential rockfall when the cut piece is removed? This is a team effort to look for hazards and obstacles. When removing limbs, be aware of spring poles and binds in brush and branches. Buried branches can be very problematic and a significant hazard in their own right. Determine the main binds in the log and how those binds may change as the log is cut. Assessing liens is important when removing limbs or brushing small diameter trees. There is a lot of very good information here, which we will examine more closely in the certification classes. Determine the safe side and the unsafe side of the log, especially for the release cut. Identify a safe area for the crew to be during the cutting operation. Determine the escape routes for all sawyers on the saw. Escape routes for bucking operations are most commonly a matter of being on the safe side of the log during the release cut. Equally important is being on the safe side of the cut, that is, the left or right, if possible. These determinations are often as simple as stepping back or behind other trees, but it is very situationally dependent. The first task is to clean and remove hazards and obstacles, like trip hazards. Assign tasks for swampers. Ensure there is control of the cutting area, and have spotters for traffic control on the trail, if required. The cut plan may start with just limbing and brushing in order to be capable of assessing the hazards and the liens and binds more accurately. So complete the OLEC process on the limbing and the brushing objective before initiating the objective for actually cutting the log to remove it from the trail. Don't forget to inspect the root ball if present. Is the root ball detached? Develop a cut plan for the entire cutting operation that addresses the hazards and binds. Determine the cutting sequence required to safely decrease the energy in the log and complete the objective. Determine what types of cuts are needed to remove energy and relieve the binds, and allow for the cut pieces to be moved safely. Determine what supports or prep work will be needed to aid in moving the cut pieces. Communicate the cut plan to the entire crew. As stated before, if a situation is more complex or beyond the SAW team leader's skill or proficiency, the SAW team leader has the responsibility to say, "No go." Likewise, SAW team members need to speak up if they feel uncomfortable. The end of the day goal is to return home safely. This picture is from the Wyeth Trail in the Columbia River Gorge on the Oregon side. Come join us for some crosscut saw logout fun.